from a particularly long day at work to find Glenda waiting for me in the kitchen. The butcher block island was covered with flour, and I could smell the bread baking in the oven. Glenda was wearing that black apron I got for her the last time I was in New Orleans on business, the one that said, "Don't make me poison your food." That was 4 years ago, before Katrina. I started to reminisce about how long we'd been together when Glenda flashed that cockeyed smile of hers and turned to take the loaves out of the oven. That's when I caught sight of her naked ass with just the jeweled top of the butt plug showing where her sweet rosebud should have been. She used the pot holders to take 2 loaf pans out of the oven and put them on the top of the stove, and before she could turn around, I'd step behind her. Slipping my hand between her legs, I moved it forward until I was cupping her plump pussy. "You're very naughty, you know," I said, tempting Daddy this way. Here she comes home from a hard day at work and finds the kitchen a mess and her baby girl practically dripping all over the floor. I stroked her wet slit and gently inserted 2 fingers all the way to my knuckles. I felt the breath leave her lungs as I wrapped my other arm around her waist and snaked the hand up to her full tits. Pinching a taut nipple, I shoved the top of her body against mine. "You left flour all over the work table. What were you thinking?" I bit the side of her neck and sucked on the tender skin until I was sure I'd caused it to bruise. "You're such a bad girl. Now Daddy's going to have to spank you. Take off that apron." "Oh, no, Daddy, please don't spank me," she said, practically ripping the apron off over her head and rubbing herself on the front of my suit. "I'll be good, I promise, and I think you know just how good I can be." Flipping her around, I bent her over the butcher block and lightly tugged at the butt plug, causing her to squirm. She jumped when the first spank landed on her beautifully rounded bottom. Glenda loved to be spanked, and I didn't want to disappoint. I landed smack after smack on her, slowly reddening behind, pausing now and then to give my hand a rest and her pussy a squeeze. I didn't neglect her jewel-filled asshole either. Glenda writhed against the worktop, and it was all I could do to keep her steady enough so that my spanks landed where I meant them to. I could tell her rear end was practically on fire when I pulled her up and to me. She wiggled around in my grasp until she was facing me and almost knocked me over trying to get her mouth on mine. "I know it's not my birthday," I said, "and I'm pretty sure it's not yours." With her arms around me, she smacked my butt lightly. "Don't even try it. You know perfectly well when my birthday is. I just felt like making bread, and then the kneading got to me. I got naked during the first rise and spent the time thinking about you and bread dough and sticky, gooey stuff on my hands, and, well, that's what happened." I looked at her and smiled. Her breasts and belly and both sides of her face were coated in flour. Her lips looked even redder than usual in the midst of all that white. I was just about to lean in for another kiss when she started to smile and then snicker. "What?" I looked down and saw my black silk blazer covered in flour. "Oh, you were so going to get it. Now what am I supposed to say to the cleaners?" She burst out laughing and swiped a finger down my nose, holding it up for me to see the flour coating it. "Oh, for heaven's sake, that better be great fucking bread." Glenda practically doubled over in laughter. "Finish up in here and go take a shower and leave that plug in. You're being punished," I said with a grin. "And don't get flour all over the house." "Yes, ma'am," she called as I heard her bound up the stairs. Glenda was probably the best thing that had ever happened to me. We met at a friend's holiday party the year after I graduated from law school. My God, that was almost 10 years ago. She was with some outdoorsy type, but it didn't matter. I couldn't stop looking at her. She looked like a pixie with her fire engine red hair cut short and wispy and her laughing green eyes. It wasn't until weeks later I found out that the hair was really dark brown, and so were her eyes. Well, I knew fire engine red wasn't a color found in nature, but who even thinks about colored contact lenses? Before New Year's, I called the friend who'd given the party and asked him about her. How serious was her relationship with the lumberjack? "Yeah, I thought I saw you looking," he said, "and that lumberjack is my cousin, I might add." "Oops, sorry, but what about their relationship?" "He told me it was my lucky day because they were just good friends. He said he wasn't even sure she was a lesbian, but that he'd get her number from the lumberjack." I called and asked her out for New Year's Eve, which in retrospect was a real long shot, but she accepted. She was in culinary school and was away most of the time, but we managed to get together on weekends. She moved into my tiny apartment after her graduation and that June, and from then on we were inseparable, and then it goes on from there.